Hello, all my fellow duelists. For you today, I have a branded deck profile. And this time, I'm not trolling, I'm not joking, I'm just getting straight into it. This is the profile I took to my last locals. It is updated a little bit, kind of the same since the last profile video I did. But we did do better, so obviously something's different. This is the Curry card that I got from my tournament pack. That was actually cool. When we get cool stuff, we got to show off the cool stuff. But the coolest thing we got is the deck, of course, because it's branded. It's cooler than anything else. Something else I kind of want to mention is this sweet Dragon Chill playmat. I'm not sponsored. I just feel like it's a cool mat. And when you get the sleeves that are designed like that, it's like pretty fitting for the lore of the deck. Like it's the Valentine's Day one, it's the romance one, and if you know the branded story, it's kind of like similar. Plus, homie here kind of looks like a aged up Albaz with like the red cape and everything. Now let's just get into the profile. I guess before I get into it, I will also like mention some of my motivations and reasoning for playing the deck. Go into some of my own deck building theory and why I play certain cards. Because if you're just coming to this deck, or if you're very new to it, or if you're new to Yu-Gi-Oh! And this seemed like a fun deck or a cool deck to play, I'm gonna try to explain some of the things and some of the reasoning behind the specific cards being included. Because you'll see a lot of profiles where you'll see a card and you'll be like, oh, that's a really good card. But you won't really know the reason it's being played or the most optimal usage or the fact that you can get multiple uses out of it. Like, so that'll go into a bit of my own theory as well with this deck. So I got 3 Albaz. He's the guy, my main character. And we got to play him as a dragon because that's a really good card. You get in your opening hand and you don't have anything else, you can kind of risk it for the biscuit. Use him to, as cost, send your branded Speller Trap as cost, mind you. So even if you get ashed, he still does this. If you don't get ashed and you do that, he'll go on the bottom of your deck and you get to draw a brand new card. So, in Magic terms, if you're coming in from Magic, he lets you mulligan for free. Blazing Cartesia, our boy's girl. She special summons herself if you got any of these guys on the field or in your graveyard. Emphasis on in your graveyard. Because through various means, you'll be getting him or him in the grave. I guess him is him, but like that's semantics. We got the little mechanical bird, Tri-Brigade Mercurier. He is your little right-hand man. Feed the birds. Love the birds. He is your negate. You need this guy to go on. Very good card to search off of some of the cards I'll talk about later on. We've got our boy's boy, Aluber. Pretty much searches you the best cards. Quem, his girl. We got Despian Tragedy and Ad Libitum. Our boy's boy. And then we have our Bestials. So this kind of goes into a little bit of my motivation for playing this deck. Is that the main characters have some pretty cool transformations and alternate versions that they go into. Like, he is him and he is him. If you didn't know that, now you do. And to boot, to make it even cooler, and something that I personally noticed is if you look at him and then you look at him, they look kind of similar in my opinion. Like similar enough to be inspired by if you like Devilman. It's also why I got Devilman playing right now, because it's just, in my opinion, a very flavorful deck for if you're a fan of the Devilman anime. Final two cards. These are the kind of cards you don't really want to see in your hand. If you see one of them, it's not the end of the world. If you see both of them, it's kind of like don't get a lottery ticket that day. But they're what we call a garnet in the card community, in that you don't want to see it, but you need it in your pile. We'll get into him. You may already know about him. If you don't, it's kind of the cheesiest win condition the whole deck has. You use one of the monsters in your deck. I'll show you later. I have 2 Ash Blossoms of the Joyous of Spring. We hate that card. 1 Dee Crow. 1 Nibiru. You may be asking, why are you playing hand traps in that number? That makes no sense. Don't you want to see your hand traps? Not when I'm playing Crossout Designator. I want them to stay in the deck, especially these 2, her 2, all 3 of them, so I can use this to negate them. Because if you got this, and these 2 as targets, you basically have 4 of this. And the fact that that's limited 1, called by the grave, you gotta like get as many of it as you can, because it will protect the best green card in the game, your Branded Fusion. You want that to resolve as often as possible, come day or night, hell or high water. Yes, a lot of decks play Thrust. I do not play Thrust. If your opponent does not Ash you, does not Veiler you, does not Crow you, Thrust is a dead-ass card. You can't set it. It's only going to be valuable on the next turn. So, like, by that logic, I'm not maining Thrust. In this profile, I'm not even siding Thrust. It didn't even come up. Crossout was just too good. Branded Opening. Because this gets you this, or this, which gets you this. By playing this, this, and this, you essentially play 9-10 copies of Branded Fusion, or a way to get to it. So that's like a quarter of the deck. We're focused on probabilities, not card number. Welcome to Branded. You don't want to play a teensy tiny little deck with all these garnets. You want to play kind of a fatter deck with a lot of search potential, like with Fusion Deployment. That gets your ball rolling. Fusion Deployment, as we get into this extra deck, you'll notice you can special summon this Cartesia by showing him the Grand Guignol I'll have in here to show you. And then when you normal or special the Aluber, and he gets impermed or Veilered, you quick effect her, that misses target. So they just wasted a card. You got your fusion, you got your fusion spell, you got it all because they're dumb. If they have Imperm and Veiler, well, then you just gotta hope they don't have any engine. We have Branded in Red, one of my favorite cards ever. Yes, you use it to go into Chimera. You can do it for other things. Getting kind of spread out here, so I'm going to try to reel it back in. Got Branded Lost and Branded Regained. Regained is not the most powerful in this build because I have a fairly moderate bestial count. Like a diet bestial count, as low as you really need to go. But the banish and return draw a card thing comes up a lot. And something else that comes up a lot that I'll still mention is when you have one of these in your hand and don't have the other one. Yeah, you can still use him to tribute your Albion, but you're not getting the most value out of him as you can. You're not going the +1 in value off of him that you should. In fact, there's other lines that you could take during the combo that would be more beneficial than getting this guy on board. If you already have access to one of these two cards, specifically Lost, because if you don't have Regains, then it's not the end of the world. Lost searches you Mercarrier, Cartesia, Albion, and Elbaz, and Quem. So it gets you into most of the monsters that you need when you successfully resolve it. And it has a similar kind of thing with your opponent as Super Poly. So with Super Poly, your opponent can't respond to it. Makes it a really busted card. You really want to play it, but it's really good for different reasons. As I've mentioned before, and I'll say it again, Albaz Super Poly makes a lot of stuff. Dark monsters are becoming popular again. Even though fire monsters are still a big part of the meta, one of the fire decks still leaves off on a dark monster, being SP Little Knight and Fire King, and Snake Eyes. Well, maybe not Fire King Snake Eyes, but Snake Eyes Pure. You get Thunder Dragon Colossus Turbos that are coming out. Like, since Baron got banned, a lot of the more rogue decks are trying to squeeze in Dispater, Dark Monster. So, like, you have a lot more options in the current meta to Super Poly than you would initially believe. And this card, I literally drew one Super Poly in my first round with my buddy. Super Poly'd his Dispater and his Colossus. Empty board. Went in, he's like, "Can you game me?" I'm like, "Yes." Round 2, let him cook, because I had 2 Super Polys in my hand. So, like, it literally wins games, the Super Poly. Super Poly and Ash Blossom, because sometimes Op can't really search for that card to get the ball rolling. You can with with Gold Sarcophagus. If you banish this dude and this dude, you'll get that search. That's why I play Gold Sark and not Foolish Burial. I was bullshitting last time when I was saying about, like, you may not be able to activate Foolish Burial. It's basically the same under Shifter as if you activate Gold Sark. But would that not then immediately make it redundant to have Foolish over Gold Sark? Because in my opinion, if I'm not hitting Gold Sark, I probably already have the card that I would need the search for. Yosemite? 3 infinite impermanence. This card's deadly. It's deadly. Love that card. Branded Retribution. That is a must in the deck. It is a must. The amount of times that you can just quickly get a branded fusion off of a branded retribution play is bazonkers. If you don't know how it goes, I'll line these up. One, two, three, four. Where did I put him? He goes, he goes. She stays. And I'll use these two as dots. So, what will happen? Branded Retribution combo, here you go. We'll say this is our hand. Won't be like the perfect line you'll always get, the perfect hand ever, but like sometimes you just gotta make do and make do. Imperms or blanks. So, you normal summon your Guiding Quem. Guiding Quem effect will send your Albion. So, you do not do Albion yet, because he's still in your graveyard. So you can special summon her, because technically, that's Albaz. So, now, Cartesia can either fuse with the Quem, but optimally, you're going to want to fuse with Soranir. If you have it. If you don't, that's fine. We'll get into that. So we'll fuse them into Granguignol. Granguignol, if you did not have Soranir in hand, and you had to fuse like that, will send Soranir. If you had Soranir, but did not have access to Albion, it'll also send Albion. It'll also send Garura. It'll also send a few other things, ad libitum. But the point of what I'm showing you now is Soranir chains now, because he's sent to the graveyard. Don't forget this, because I have. Send Retribution. Activate Albion as cost. Pitch this. Chain to this. Banish it. Add this card to your hand. This card goes back to the bottom. You do not draw the card, but you get your branded fusion. So that is a major consistency thing. If you did not know, now you know, Daddy-O. It also is a very decent segue to get me into my extra deck. Make sure everything's there. In the extra deck, I have a Albion the Sanctifier for the gimmick puppet nightmare I showed you earlier. I have one copy of Mirror Jade. No, your opponent does not always have Kashtira Unicorn. They cannot always look at and banish your extra deck monsters face down. Do not always expect the worst. And if that happens, if you play a locals in that type of environment, prepare for it. I have a deck list with 2 Mirror Jades because my play test partner's on cash. I've got 1 Lubellion because he kind of puts himself back into the graveyard anyway, or back into the extra deck anyways. I needed extra deck space, so I figured why not cut him, because he's the only Albaz fusion monster that isn't really gonna do a whole lot when you send him to the graveyard. So he's kind of the last one you would ever want to send, because you always want to make sure he comes back. 2 Albions, because he's kind of one of the ones you do want to send. Like, if you have the option. Like, you typically use Lubellion to tribute over him and tag him out, but sending him sometimes is just as good. 2 other cards that are really good to send are Titanic and Rinbrum. Titanic is dope because it'll get you Quem. In a pinch, it'll also get you Albaz. Yesterday, or a day before, at my tournament, I had to do a double play with these guys, where I added Albaz and Branded in Red to my hand in the end phase, because buddy I was playing was Lab, and he had to activate his trap. He had to wait the turn to activate his trap cards. So I'm like, how do I pop those trap cards before you activate them? Oh, I get it. I'll just, like, get the fusion materials for Chimera rolling in the main phase 1. So then in main phase 3, I can play Chimera. It's that kind of future playing you need to observe. Galzo said it best, it's like chess. You gotta play 3 phases ahead. We have Despian Queritus. He comes up a lot. If you ever think of cutting Queritus, don't. He's got a neat little line on him. If he leaves the field, just like Mirror Jade, he has a wicked effect. He'll special summon your Despian or a Fallen of Albaz from your deck. You know how many times I've gotten someone on a sneaky Fallen of Albaz off of this guy? And they're like, what? He does that? I'm like, yes, he do. That's what he's supposed to do. Plus, to make everything's attack 0. That's like, mwah. Just a little icing on top. The second effects of all these cards are really slept on. Dark Dragoon, because he is just the only option that you really have under Shifter. Yes, he could do Draco Stapelia right here, but the 1 negate versus the negate, destroy, burn, and then next turn burn again, or negate, destroy, gain attack, and then next turn burn. That is something that you can't really, like, ignore, you know? I already seen 1. It may not surprise you to know that I'm on 2 Grand Guignols. Yes, it has come up very often for me playing, where I'm like, damn, I wish I had that other Grand Guignol in my deck. And yes, it comes in incredibly handy. Just the fact that you can quick effect fuse your Cartesia, or quick effect fuse your Mirror Jade with Cartesia to make your other Grand Guignol to then trigger Quem. That's pretty bustin'. That's pretty good if you ask me. No, that's the type of, like, logic I found works best, is like all of your cards are supposed to work together. Nothing does something by itself, but if it does something by itself, you gotta play it. Chimera. I have no personal attachment to this man. I don't even know this man. We don't play the other Chimeras, so I wouldn't even have him in my party. But when everyone's playing Chimera, they're like, Oh, we play the Fright Fur package, like makes Chimera untargetable. I don't care if Chimera gets impermed or veilered. Good, they wasted that because I care about the ad libitum branded in red play to get him back. I don't give a damn about him, I want him. I have no personal attachments to if this goes off or not. If they used something on this, good. Bait. You already seen Draco's Stapelia. You got the other two most popular and most come-uppy fusion targets, Mood Dragon and Garura. Honestly, I'd probably cut Garura, except he does come up a little bit in the cash matchup. Makes whatever you got untargetable. He is pretty good. Going back to the polymerization thing from the Fright Fur package, just play Garura or play Mood Dragon. He's untargetable anyway, along with Mirror Jade, everything that's dark. Garura has some funny usage though. I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is my favorite line. Grangwignol will send Garura. Albion will banish Garura to make Lubellion. Lubellion will return Garura to make Mirror Jade. So you got the draw one to replenish your discard. You still got him. You still have him for another fusion material. You still got options. If you got access to Regained, you could use Branded in Red to banish him and return him. You got so much you can do. One card that I would play, not a double of something in here. I would actually even cut the Moo Dragon, and I have to play Sprint. So Sprint is actually really good, and not a lot of people will tell you why. I will, because I've played a lot with this guy. I love Sprint. He looks cool, he is cool. And what's cool about him? The same thing as the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. Everything needs to be special summoned. Everything. So, your opponent special summons a monster. You have Albaz. Typically, you would need that monster to be like a specific attribute or type or have a certain level or attack points or something. Sprint doesn't care. He doesn't give a damn. He just cares it was special summoned. So, like, he's the only real Albaz super poly target for Cash Tira Fenrir. He's the only one. So if you're gonna like replace any of these cards with a different card, yeah, Magnum's okay too. I like Sprint. The other thing about Sprint, if your opponent's got a big ass board, or if you catch him in the middle of a fucking combo or something, just move it. It's really cool. And he just destroys everything in that row. If you get them in an extra deck monster zone, they have a monster behind it and a face up behind that. You're getting all three of them, baby. So that is my extra deck theory. I guess one more thing about Sprint is he's really good ammunition for Mirror Jade. That's kind of what you should view these four cards as, is ammunition. That's the other thing, is my deck is not optimized to do more than 4 Mirror Jade activations without returning monsters to the extra deck. So there are branded decks that are optimized to do 4 per turn. You can get that big, but you gotta make compromises. My side deck, because I know you were waiting for that, Forbidden Droplet, because sometimes Super Poly doesn't cut the cheese against certain decks. Snake Eyes kind of laughs at you when you drop the Super Poly. Forbidden Droplet's a little scarier. I got the back row stuff. Feather Duster, Cyclone. So I talked about Feather Duster in my last video. Cyclone is pretty good, and it's really good this format, because if you get a field spell while it's activating its effect, not while it's just being placed activated, but while it's like special summon card in the field activated, if you chain your Cosmic Cyclone to that and banish it, it doesn't resolve. You have effectively negated it. It's why they have the meme MST negate. I'm still on the Black Goat Laughs. No, it did not come up, but I still believe in it. It is just like too good. It's too good, buddy. Here is the other part of my deck building theory that may get some people off the rails, is what I do with hand traps and what I do with cross-out designator. So this half of my side deck is for specific situations and decks that I struggle with that I can stop. Or if I get the ball rolling or get into these, it's really good. You know you struggle with back row removal. These are because some decks just have to scoop when you play them. Manadium again, us again. Like, a well-timed hand trap or two can really make the difference. But I don't want to brick on them, which is the other reason with cross-out and playing them at 2, is I hope to see the one and banish the other one with cross-out. So I never draw it in the grind game, because what sucks is drawing it in the grind game. Something that this deck is kind of known for is how well it plays down the line and like as the game goes on. It's not going to play too well if you make silly decisions. It's not going to play too well in the long game. I kind of lost my train of thought while I was saying that sentence. It's not going to play too well in the long game if you draw a hand trap when you don't need to draw a hand trap. It's kind of why I don't play branded Chimera. I'll usually top deck the Chimera Fusion when I really want to top deck the branded Fusion. I believe this list is 44, 45. Just gonna do a quick hand and combo, show what's up. You did see me shuffle that, correct? So I would say the real issue with this is we have no actual monsters, but who really cares? What's the next one? Oh, it's Elbaz. So you obviously get what you need off of this. There's nothing, no real special line I can show you. Best thing we're going to make is Mirror Jade. Let's see if we get a more wacky one. Let's see if we get a better hand to show off. Ah, I dropped my deck. Well, not my deck, but like the top few cards. Yeah, it's pretty good still. So what I would do with this is I would go draw face, standby main. I would play the Branded Lost. Actually, what's our next card? Yeah, cross out. So if we are going into round or second turn, it's kind of good. Wish we could swap that out with a cross out, but whatever. So we'll play Branded Lost. We'll play Branded Fusion. We will send Albaz. And Bestial Lubellion. Make Albion. So, your lost protection does not start here. It starts here. So, now that you have lost protection, you need to maintain it. So, chain 1, chain 2. Because they're both trigger effects. That's what it's supposed to do. So that will search your Tri-Brigade Mercourier, which you are immediately going to banish with Albaz. And that will make your Lubellion. Lubellion, again, protect your fusion line. He will have to be chain 1. Discard the Gimmick Puppet. It's a joke. Chain 2 is your Mercourier. So Mercourier is going to add Guiding Quem. So, Lubellion is going to fuse with Albaz. We'll make Mirror Jade. So, your protection will still last with Branded Lost as Mirror Jade is being summoned. If you have any other triggers, they're still good. But in this next part, you lose your protection. So, I am going to tribute with this. Now, we're going to normal summon Guiding Quem. Activate her effect. You could send a Fallen of Albaz to make your Branded in Red live. You could do that. But we're trying to sneak a little bit of Gimmick Puppet energy into this. Oh no, that'll still Gimmick Puppet. Because we drew it in hand, we'll just do it. So she sends him. Oh yeah, this is gonna be cool. Do not, or I guess you can set Super Poly if you want. Gonna go him to set your Lost, or your Regained, because you already had Lost in your hand. And now we're rolling. End phase. Albion is going to trigger. He is going to set branded in red. So there is something else you can do if you want, but I'll show you that in a different line. So we'll do pass turn. We will activate branded in red as soon as they draw the card. Target is Albaz. Albaz to fuse with Quam. Gets banished. Makes Albion. Few things happen here. We got the chain 1. We got the chain 2. We got the chain 3. Or, if you want to be like extra funny, we add him and fuse with, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to be extra funny, because I just remembered you need to keep an extra monster in your graveyard. So we'll just go back to this. That's chain 1, that's chain 2, and this is chain 3. Because this is a quick effect, and these two are trigger effects. You can't activate this before you activate these, unless you don't care about activating these. But we do. So we'll do Lost for the Search. There's a time like this where I sometimes think about maybe I just want to play 2 Mercuriers. Search Cartesia. I'm going to shuffle up. What we will return so this happens. This happens. Your gimmick puppet happens. That was going to be kind of the whole big thing, but what we will return is Mercurier, because if you sequenced it differently, I just kind of thought about that, the mess up I made. You can return it to draw, and then search it back to your hand. I kind of just remembered that, which is a little bit better than searching Cartesia. So what this is right now is you have Super Poly set, Monster negate, search negate, the can't special summon, banish a monster, because you didn't do that last turn. But sometimes you want to. And yeah, you got follow up. You're looking pretty good. I'm now going to attempt to show you a non-gimmick puppet line, just so you know it's actually possible. This is going on kind of longer than I wanted to, but sometimes you just gotta say, screw it. I'm gonna do it. I do take a little bit longer to explain some things, but not everybody knows the things that you're explaining. Maybe in this combo, I'll get to show you some pretty cool Despia lines. This hand is not the best, but it will have to do. So we can go draw phase, standby main. Normal summon Despian Tragedy. deck to your hand. Yeah. Normal summon Despian Tragedy. We'll play Branded Fusion. We'll do Albaz. That wasn't him. I bet it's in the back. Or is it not in the back? Did I already go? Did I already skip it? I see what people say I take a long time to search. Bestial Rebellion, he was stuck. So, I'll make Albion like usual. Albion, banish Albaz and Tragedy. Make Rebellion. Rebellion, the discard will be ad libitum. And we will super poly these two dudes. No, we won't super poly these two dudes. I was tripping. We could, though. Rebellion should be over that. So now you can set this and it does some pretty wacky good stuff. We'll keep Super Poly in hand. Nah, we'll set it. We'll set it. Because he will set his card. We'll show you why we set it. We'll set Lost there. No. See, we could do Lost, but I want to, like, show you the thing I was going to show you. Regained. So that is that. He will search branded in red in the end phase. We have Retribution and Super Polymerization set. Branded in red is set. Regained is face up. So what does this actually mean? Oh yeah, and he activated. Because he got banished. That's why we normal summoned him. He activated and got us a Luber. That's why we normal summoned him to banish him. So we have one monster card in hand, which is our Luber for next turn, in case this all goes awry. What Branded in Red will do? It will add ad libitum back to your hand, assumingly, hopefully, after you've already spent your Mirror Jade for your first activation. So now, you'll fuse your ad libitum, hopefully, to pop 2 cards. You kind of want to hold on to him, but if you have to, do them. But we'll be doing these two. Or these 2 on the field. And the 1 in the hand. For your Chimera. So Chimera will pop 2. He'll be the C1. Regained will be the C2. And ad libitum will be the C3. He'll target Mirror Jade. This is why I said earlier, I don't care about Chimera. I care about Mirror Jade because now he comes back. He can send a card again, banish another monster, after Chimera's already destroyed 2 cards. And with Regained, you can return Bestial Rebellion or ad libitum to do it again. We'll draw. It's Crossout Designator. So we can't use it this turn So what are we gonna do? We're gonna flip this super poly and absorb the opponent's board. Oh, they thought they'd special summon something else. You could. If you do, I'd prioritize returning these two. So what you got now is, we'll assume they had stuff to make Garura. What you got now is your opponent has no monsters. Go into your turn and you have 9,300 damage on them. And you can normal summon a Luber. So, if you're just getting into the deck, take your time like I did. Try to observe and learn and know that you can do different lines on the fly. I know I'm not the smoothest, but I'm also trying to be beginner friendly. I hope that this stuck with you pretty good. And I hope that you picked up on some of the things I was saying. Peace out, and catch you on the next one.